Hey everybody, you are now tuned into The Blackout, shining a light on Black excellence, activism, and culture, blacked out by the majority on AfroVibes Radio, the #1 online internet radio station, with your girl, Tequila. Today's special guest is registered nurse and YouTube vlogger, the lovely and my sorority sister, Miss Andrea, right?
Andrea, but
Andrea. We're going to get there right. Andrea Resendez. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for coming. She kept her part of the deal. She showed up and was on time. Of course I wasn't, but it's okay. But no, so we're going to get straight into it. So you just recently passed your test and you became a registered nurse.
I did, yeah.
Congratulations on everything.
Thank you.
Your success on YouTube. You've done great, giving out so many wonderful tips. So we brought you here basically just to shine a light on your Black excellence in the community and talk about some of the amazing things that you're doing. Okay. So before you start, just introduce yourself, give us some background information into who Miss Resendez is.
Resendez. So my name is Andrea Resendez, like you said, otherwise known as Sweet Yella on all my social media platforms. Just a little background, I did go to Prairie View, let me refix that, the Prairie View A&M University.
You know.
Started off there at the main campus and then ended up going to the nursing program. That whole journey itself was about 5 years, and like you said, I just recently graduated back in May. I passed my NCLEX on June 14th, which is the NCLEX is like basically the exam to get your license to become a nurse. So I passed that, and then just recently started working like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. No, like 3 weeks ago. So that's where I'm at right now, in the NICU, which is basically like the ICU for babies. So that's where I am now.
Amazing. So I know you're kind of transparent because you are a vlogger.
Yes.
So you share so many different things. And I remember one time you were basically sharing the story about your brother. You had posted a picture just saying he was one of the reasons why you were so passionate about being a nurse.
Right.
Would you share that story?
Of course. So I do want to say, like I said that because I tell people all the time, you always have to have a reason why. Like when you want to be a nurse, like why do you want to do it? Because when you're in nursing school, it's going to get hard. And if you don't have that motivation or that drive as to why you even want to be a nurse, you may give up, you know? So my why has always been my brother. A lot of my followers, they know, my brother is my entire world. So he actually has epilepsy, which is like a disorder where he has seizures pretty much on the daily. And so he's younger than me, like 5 years younger than me. And so I remember like when we were growing up, like a lot of times we were in the hospital, like in and out. So I was always exposed to the hospital environment. And so there have been multiple times where we thought, like, my brother wouldn't make it. Like, the doctors themselves said, he wouldn't see past the age of 3 or 4. And just having that exposure and seeing how, like, the nurses in particular, because I will say this, there is a huge difference between the way a doctor provides care and the way a nurse provides care. I think there's a little bit more compassion when it comes to the nurses. Yeah. And it's not just like, okay, I have this patient. You have that patient and all their family members because, of course, like, that's a really stressful time. And so with my brother, like I said, I just remember like how the nurses treated us and how they like made sure we were okay. Because again, he was a baby. There was like times where he clinically died. Like I said, we didn't think he was going to make it. And so really just having that drive of I wanted to give back and I wanted to make sure that families kind of felt the same way that those nurses had made, my family felt. And so anytime in nursing school, like stuff got hard or like I really, truly wanted to give up because there were multiple times when I wanted to do that, I just thought about like my why, which is my brother. And like another thing too is I think about on top of his epilepsy, he's also like mentally and physically delayed. So there's a lot of things that he'll never get to do. He'll never get to ride a bike. He'll never get to just do a lot of things that, we as, not having a disorder are able to do. And so I kind of, to an extent, like want my brother to be able to live through me. I want to be able to experience things and see things and do things in honor of my brother and, like I said, so he can kind of live through me because he'll never get to do some of those things.
So how does your brother feel about you being a nurse?
So he's not verbal, so I can't specifically say, he's, super excited. But the thing is, like, and I want to say this, like, when it comes to people who are disabled, they know. He may not be verbal, but there are sometimes, like, because we've been around him so long, we can pick up on those cues. We can pick up that, like, he knows what he's doing. Like, if he's doing something wrong, he knows that he's doing something wrong. So, like, I feel like non-verbally, like, because your nonverbal gestures are more profound than, like, your verbal gestures. They say a lot more. So just, like, when I come around, like, he'll get super excited or, like, my mom tells me sometimes, like when I'm gone for work, like sometimes he'll go into my room like, okay, like, hey, where's my sister? Like looking for me. So I would say, to say the least, because I do verbalize it around him. Like, even though, like I said, he's not verbal, I do say like, oh, I'm doing this for you. Like, this is for you. This is for you. He knows. So I feel like I said, I try to pick up on those nonverbal cues. Like, okay, like you're happy when Sissy comes around and stuff like that. So to say the least, I would say he's happy.
That's such a beautiful thing. And that's what I always say when people are like, I don't know what I want to do in my life. I'm not sure what to do. And I tell them it's based off of your personal passions,
Right.
your personal purpose. You got to think about, what is it that I love so much or I care about, that when I get up in the morning, it doesn't feel like a job. It feels like something I want to get up and do. Like, that's how I feel about the radio.
Yeah.
And I found a more positive way to use my platform. And so I feel like you've done the same thing. And just being able to share that story, because I believe it's a lot of people out here that have siblings who may be disabled, and they have a lot of things they want to accomplish, but may feel like they have to stay home to take care. But there's other ways that they can give back. And you've been very visual on showing that. So that's why we really appreciate and highlight you. Okay, and so moving past just the reason behind you being where you are, why did you choose to go to Prairie View at HBCU to basically become a registered nurse?
So I chose Prairie View for a couple of reasons. Well, one, I will say I was kind of, and this is normal, I feel like this is super normal and something that kind of needs to shed more light on. So for one, I came from like an all-white, basically predominantly white high school. And so when I didn't really know nothing about HBCUs. Like, I honestly didn't know anything about. I just knew that Prairie View was close to home, which is like, I'm originally from Belleville, so it was like 30 minutes from home. I knew the nursing program was amazing, like one of the best. But to bring it back to like the predominantly white high school thing, is I was scared. I was super nervous. Like, there were like my first semester, my freshman year, I wanted to like go home a lot because it was a new culture, it was a new environment. But I think that's a part of like growing, like being able to adjust to certain environments and not just staying stagnant. Because with me as a person, like I just don't like to be stagnant. So that was an adjustment within itself. But why I specifically chose Prairie View, one, like not gonna lie, it was close to home and the nursing program. And over time, I've come to absolutely love Prairie View. Like, I recommend it to my subscribers all the time. Like, if you're looking for a good program, like I said, one of the best, I would go to Prairie View. If you're in the Texas area, I mean, even if you're not in the Texas area, I would highly recommend Prairie View.
Absolutely. And I feel the same way. When I first graduated high school, I went to Cypress Springs. That's where I graduated, in the Katy area. I live in Katy.
Right. Me too.
And okay, so it at the time it was predominantly white. Like, I was like probably one of 20 black students.
Yeah.
And I graduated in a class of 1,000. So that should tell
Wow.
you what my environment was like,
Yeah.
right? And I ain't gonna lie, I had been to an all-black school before. My mother pulled me out after a year. She didn't like it. And I was like, man, what if it's like that? You know, you're getting teased and bullied. And because you already stand out. You know, I was proper, I could articulate. And I just was a little different probably from my environment.
Yeah.
And so they could pick up on that. So I was like, man, I don't really know if I want to go to a HBCU or college at all. Like, I just don't know. I'm tired of this process. And when I went, it actually had probably one of the most biggest impacts on my lives and really connected me with my culture, because I was able to look at things from another perspective.
Yes.
And as I say, as black people, we're not monolithic. And I think they make us believe that we all come from one area, which is the ghetto, and that we're not educated. And it's like, I went to Prairie View and I seen people from so many different backgrounds that were different shades of black.
Yeah.
And so it was a beautiful thing. Now with the nursing program, I can tell you about my roommate being stressed out and all my friends. I done seen some people drop out the program because it's challenging. And I believe it's that way because they want you guys to give the best care possible and know what you're doing. So for yourself, like, were there any intimidations when you got there into the program and just seeing all the hard work that came with it?
Yes, honestly, like my first semester, I remember, and I'm pretty sure my mom can remember this too. It was like the first weekend. Well, for one, I was new to Houston. I had to move to Houston to finish this dream of mine because the nursing school's in the medical center. But aside from that, like the first week, I literally ran to my closet, like sat on the floor and just had like a breakdown. Like, this is too much. Like, they expect me to know like 15 chapters in 2 weeks and take this test. And that's where I feel like the intimidation came in. There will be times, even throughout the entire program, up until like my very last semester, I'd be like, is this even for, like, am I really going to be a nurse? Can I really be a nurse? Am I going to remember any of this stuff? And especially like when it came time for the NCLEX, I was like, am I going to remember anything? Like, I've been learning stuff for the past 2.5 years. How am I going to, be able to remember stuff that I learned like 2 years ago? But I will say that as hard and as strict and as tough as the program was and the instructors there were, you can tell the difference between a PB nurse and another nurse. Oftentimes we come with a lot more skill set than other nurses because what they expose us to, and being that the school is in the medical center, we get access to a lot of the hospitals that are there. So you can always tell the difference between a well-prepared PB nurse and just, a regular nurse from another school.
Oh, that's so amazing. So as you were going along your process, one of the things you decided to do was do YouTube, and you said you ended up connecting your Instagram. So what actually inspired you to want to start the YouTube channel?
It first started with my mom kind of bringing it up, like, hey, like, have you ever thought about, doing YouTube? And honestly, no, I hadn't. Because to kind of bring it back to high school, I was really the type of person that I wasn't the person that's gonna like be the loudest one of the group. Like I was kind of like sheltered and kind of to myself. But going to Prairie View, I was actually like a tour guide there, so I had to like snap out of that really quick. I had to be comfortable with my environment and be comfortable with just speaking to people and speaking to crowds. So I thought, you know what, I am really good with speaking. I am really good with like communicating and stuff like that. But doing it in front of a camera and then like doing it to where it's gonna keep the audience's attention. I forgot what you asked.
How about you starting a YouTube channel?
Oh, yeah. So, okay. So when I started it, like I was telling you earlier, like I was getting like 11 views, like 5 subscribers, and it was literally just my family. Like it, and I was like, where is this, going to take off? Is this even going to take off? And I guess just what really inspired me is just to be that guidance and be that light for other people, because you'd be surprised how many people don't have, I mean, maybe it's not even a surprise, so many people that don't have that guidance, like they're first generation college students, or like no one in their family has ever been to nursing school. So just being that light and being that guidance and just being able to like answer questions, like even if it has nothing to do with nursing school, I'm sure you can relate to this, like going to Prairie View and like dealing with the financial aid office.
Oh yeah.
It's hard, and if you don't know the right steps and you like say, oh yes, like I want all these loans, but and then you don't want all the loans, like it can really hurt you. And so I just want to be able to like help people ahead of time and be proactive and like try to just guide you in the right direction, especially if you don't have that guidance.
See, you just gave me another idea. Because for the people that know, like my other thing I want to do is documentaries. I'm a comm major, journalism, so I focused on mostly on writing. But since I've been at the radio station, I got more into doing the videos and the radio. What you looking at me like that for? I see you on the other side. I got my cousin helping me today, y'all. She acting like I'm bothering her with her Erykah Badu rap on.
You don't have to do it like that.
No, but just going through that and just hearing you talk about it, it starts to inspire you and make you think, well, like, dang, yeah, I do have people that come up to me that ask me different questions, or just enlighten about college, or just being Black and trying to be an entrepreneur. Like, it's so many different things. Just for yourself, what do you feel like is one of the main questions that you get asked the most?
Let me think. One of the main questions, I would probably say, like, what route should I go? Because there's so many routes when it comes to nursing and like how you want to go about things. And I can say too, for me personally, like coming from the small town that I came from, I didn't have much, like here in Austin, here in Houston, there's so much opportunity. Like there's so many resources out here, but being from the small town that I came from, I didn't have those opportunities. So a lot of times people will ask me like, which route should I go? You can be a CNA, you can go up to like LVN, you can do ADN, then your BSN. I went straight for my BSN. So I would say that's the number one question. And it really just depends on who you are as a person, where you're at in life. Because, a lot of times people will have a whole family, like they'll be grown and, will want to come back to nursing school. And that's absolutely okay. Like a lot of times nursing is like a second career option for people. So I would say when it comes to that, just knowing where you are in life and like your financial status, because, of course you have to pay for school, and just knowing what's best for you in that moment in time.
It's so funny you say that with the options, because my mom, she always gets mad when she sees like one of our relatives, like a CNA.
Yeah.
Would you being a CNA? You need to go and just keep on going. You may as well be a registered nurse.
Right.
And I'd be like, Mama, they probably don't want to deal with all that. They may be
yeah.
comfortable just sitting, with the elderly and helping them every day. But you're right, there are many options. And so when we come back, we're going to get more into where you're at now, passing your test, and some of your experiences. And we want you guys to make sure you still tune in, but we got got to go to a quick break. When we return, we will continue our show. Until then, you're listening to The Blackout, shining a light on Black excellence, activism, and culture on AfroVibes Radio with your girl, Tequila. Hey everybody, you are now tuned back into The Blackout, always shining a light on Black excellence, activism, and culture. Blacked out by the majority on AfroVibes Radio, the #1 online internet radio station with your girl, Tequila. Now, I'm going to try to get this name right, and let me tell y'all, it's not because I don't want to remember it or I don't know it. It's because my line sister's name is Andrea, and that's what it looked like. But she said it's Andrea Resendez.
There you go. Yes, there you go.
So we're going to get it right. But thank you guys for still staying tuned in with us on The Blackout while we shine a light on this amazing, lovely lady being a registered nurse. And so before we left, we were talking about her YouTube channel and some of the amazing things that she shares. So tell us about some of the tips that you have, because I know you talk about the NCLEX exam. You practically went through your entire program from the time you were at Prairie View until where you are now. So tell us about that.
So as far as the journey, I guess starting at Prairie View and my prereqs, honestly, and to be truthful, I felt that those classes kind of reminded me of high school, but everyone's going to have their own experience as far as do you feel like the class is actually hard? Is it, easy to you? So when I got to Prairie View and I was doing my prereqs, I was like, okay, this isn't so bad. This isn't so bad. And so, but when I got to nursing school, it was a different story. And that happens to a lot of the students there. We come in as straight A students, A, B students. You get to you get to the nursing program. And I will never forget the day. My first test, I literally stayed up till 5 o'clock in the morning studying, got the test grade back, and I made a 58. So it's you have to kind of get used to. And I actually made a post about this on my Instagram the other day. Everything's not going to be perfect. You're not going to know everything. And I had to realize that immediately when I got to the nursing program and just being able to change up my study habits. And I think that's kind of the #1 tip that I like to give my followers. Understand that you may be coming in as a 4.0 student, but don't get discouraged. Don't feel let down if you don't keep that 4.0 throughout nursing school. And so really just, being able to be adjusted to the whole curriculum, to the whole struggle, because it's a struggle. So when I got to nursing school, after my first semester, I passed all my classes. Thank God. I never failed a class in nursing school, but there were multiple tests that I did fail. Just being able to bounce back after that first semester and just being able to realize, okay, this is going to be hard. This is going to be a challenge, but I'm going to be able to grow through it. So.
Did you find that being transparent about some of your challenges, it kind of helped other students that may have been afraid or going through the same thing? Because I guess when you're in the process of taking these courses, you may feel like you're the only one in your class that's just not getting it, or you're making mistakes. Did you feel like they were responding to you being honest about your experience?
Yes, and that's one of the main things I like to do with my followers and my subscribers, whether it be Instagram or YouTube, because I feel like a lot of times influencers, they're only going to show you the positive things, or you're only going to see the positive things, because no one really wants to talk about failures. No one wants to talk about what they lack. And so with me, I try to stress that a lot. I'm going to be honest with you guys, let you know the real, because if I'm sitting here and telling you all these amazing things about, nursing, and you get there and you experience it and you're like, okay, well, this is not how it went for her. And again, everyone's going to have their own experience, but it's important to know that there are going to be struggles. And so I do have people that say they look to me as a role model. And so if I'm going to be your role model, I want to let you know I'm not perfect. I have flaws. I have challenges. And there are a lot of times where I wanted to give up or I felt overwhelmed, but it's just a matter of getting through that. And so if they're able to relate to me on that level, I think that kind of helps a lot more. Okay, hey, yes, she's this influencer. Yes, she did get through nursing school, but she also had her struggles as well.
Amazing. So tell us about passing the NCLEX and then actually becoming a registered nurse and how it's been working in the NICU.
So for starters, my NCLEX, I remember, like I said earlier, I always had the thought of how am I going to remember all that information? I remembered I studied maybe for a month straight. I would do at least 150 questions a day. And I kind of like went MIA on a lot of people on social media. I went MIA, and just that whole building up to taking the test that day was really, I honestly felt like it was more stressful than nursing school itself, because not only did like my license depended on that test, but as well as my career, like the job. I had already had my job. It just relied on me to actually pass the NCLEX. God forbid I didn't pass the NCLEX. I don't even know if I would have a job to this day. So I was really stressed, and I could see that I was stressed. But, I was going to church every Sunday. Like, I had to, always keep a positive mindset. And so I went in, like I said, on June 14th at 8 a.m., went to take my test. Took me 2 hours. So with the NCLEX, you can get up to 265 questions. It's like a computer-adapted test. So depending on how good or how bad you're doing, will determine the length of the test. So I stopped at 75, which is the minimum. Right after, so technically you have to wait 48 hours to see if you passed or not. That was the hardest 48 hours ever. But I try to do things that kind of distracted me from thinking about it. I found out Sunday morning, literally 48 hours later, right before I was, going to church. So I passed, and literally I recorded, it's on my YouTube channel. I recorded that, me seeing my results, and I just burst into tears, because it's a weight was lifted off my shoulders, and everything that I had worked so hard for had paid off. So like I said, I started working not too long ago in the NICU. It is an adjustment. It's nothing like nursing school. And again, now I'm working with my license. Like when you're at nursing school and you're at clinicals, technically you're under that nurse's license, but now I have my own license. I'm responsible for my own patients, and it's overwhelming, and I know it's going to be an adjustment, but with prayer and a positive mindset, I think I'll be okay.
You're going to be fine. Good congratulations. So,
thank you.
Being in the NICU, first off, why did you want to work with the babies specifically? I know you have your brother,
right?
But just being in there, because babies already, they come with a lot just
yes.
within themselves. But these kids, they need a more special care, especially more attention. How has that process been?
So I think the main thing for me as with NICU is, I do relate it back to my brother, because my brother doesn't, like I said, he's not verbal, so he doesn't have that voice. Being a patient going to a doctor's office, either my mother, my sister, me, we're my brother's voice. So I relate that back to the babies. They can't speak. They have no voice. So just being able to be that voice and being that advocate for the babies, I think that's what kind of motivates me so much. And I don't know if you've heard about this, but a lot of times with babies, whether they're in the NICU or not, just babies in general, they'll pick up on your aura, they'll pick up on how you feel, and that affects them. So if I can come into work every day and be positive and just, love what I'm doing, and that reflect back on the babies, that honestly means a lot to me. How I'm feeling, how I come into work can determine, how, if this baby progresses, if it, makes no improvement and things like that. So I think that's why it really drove me into the NICU, just being that voice for those babies and having an impact on them.
Absolutely. And just being a woman of color in a registered nurse position, how important is it to see other women of color as well be nurses for the community?
It's amazing. I'm actually glad you brought that up, because the hospital that I work at now, the first day, because I actually had clinical there last semester, and the first day I went there for clinicals, I picked up on that immediately. Wow, there's a lot of people here who are of color. And I enjoy that. I really value that, because to be honest with you, there have been times where I'll go to hospitals and there will be literally no one of color. And I think that's something that's being shed more light to on social media now, whether you're a doctor, in the healthcare field at all, we need more people of color. Because there is this stigma sometimes, as you, a person of color, come into a doctor's office, you may not feel because your doctor is not of your color, you may not feel like y'all can relate on a personal level. I have, friends who tell me they would prefer going to a doctor of color because they feel okay, you can relate to me on a more personal level. So I think that that also is another drive for me. If I do get a family that is of color, whether it be Black, Hispanic, any minority, I feel like it helps me more, because I feel like they can feel as if I can relate to them.
And see, I agree, because when I was pregnant with my child I just had recently, like, well, I ain't gonna say recently. He's 18 months, it's like a year and a half. But a year and a half ago, and I had a black doctor. I just felt more comfortable because I feel like as a black woman, she knows the challenges and the health risks that other black women have. And instead of telling me, because I've had this experience where a white doctor has told me, oh, well, that's what African-American women get. It's normal. You'll be fine.
Yeah, no.
My doctor's like, no, this is what we're going to do to prevent it. And, like fibroids or whatever the case may be, this is what we can do to prevent it. And this is what we can do to stop it from growing or whatever the case may be. And so I just felt more comfortable with her. I could be more honest about my health, and if I didn't feel good, if I had certain issues, that I don't feel like I could be honest with somebody that doesn't identify with, one, me as a black person, and two, even do anything to help my community. How are you going to really help benefit my health? So I think it's really important when we have people like you that want to take on these professional careers when it comes to saving lives. You got to be able to see them, and then you want to inspire kids. As little girls, they want to be doctors, but they got to know what that looks like. You know what I'm saying? So that's a big deal. So as we're coming to a close of the show, I want you to be able to, share your YouTube, your Instagram, everything, so people can follow you. So go ahead and provide us with all that information.
Okay, so my YouTube is Sweet Yella TV. That's with 3 E's with the sweet. My Instagram and my Snapchat and my Twitter is also Sweet Yella, again with 3 E's, sweet_YELLA. I also have a Facebook community where I actually created to where the nursing students and the nurses can all kind of like network and interact with each other, which is called All Things Nursing, a world for nurses and nursing students. So definitely check that out.
Now, before you go, I had one of my guy friends. He want to know with Nurse Bay, if Nurse Bay is single. They all in the comments. They looking. What's up, Nurse Bay?
So Nurse Bay is not single. I'm off the market. So, yeah, sorry.
That's like the new thing now, Nurse Bay. I don't know why that's like trending.
It is. It is. And like you'll have people that'll ask like, oh, like you're a nurse now. Like, oh, you can give me shot. No, sorry. Gotta go through my boyfriend first before you do that.
Oh, shot all the way down. Well, y'all heard it here first. Nurse Bay said no.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm just kidding. But thank you so much for coming to our show and just letting us highlight your excellence. We're so proud of you. I look forward to seeing everything you do in the future. I'm sure your YouTube is only going to grow and get better.
Thank you so much.
So congratulations. But Prairie View produces productive people.
Okay.
So I'm not surprised. But thank you guys so much for tuning into The Blackout, where we always shine a light on Black excellence, activism, and culture with your girl Tequila on AfroVibes Radio. And make sure to check out our Facebook and Instagram pages at The Blackout AVR. And to stay up to date on our previous discussions and future events, please visit AfroVibes Facebook and Instagram at AfroVibes Radio, Twitter at AfroVibes Radio with an S, and lastly, listen to us online at www.afrovibesradio.com or simply download the AfroVibes Radio app on the Apple or Google Play Store.